So, how you guys doing today? We're going to be looking at the Cold War, and the Cold War starts the second that World War II ends. The Cold War is going to be between two nations. It's going to be the United States versus the Soviet Union, also known as the USSR. It's not an exaggeration to say that the entire world is going to choose a side. You're either going to think of it like blood versus Crips. Those who choose the United States and capitalism are going to be the blue team. Those who choose the Soviet Union and communism, they're going to be the red team. And you'll see this is actually going to play out as we go through. So, a couple of things we're going to go through today. Things that changed after World War II. And you're going to see a lot changes. Your first question is what replaced the League of Nations after World War II? And here's your answer. It's the United Nations. Think of all the problems that the League of Nations had. The United States didn't join it. Oops. And number two, it didn't have a military. So after World War II, they're going to fix this. They're going to redo it. They're going to kind of reset. And they're going to create the United Nations. Guess what? The United States is going to join it. And it's going to have a military. Boom. Problem fixed. Today, you can see this is a map of the world. All the blue are countries that are members of the United Nations. As you can see, pretty much everybody. I think even North Korea, as silly as that sounds. Its headquarters in New York City. So one of these days, when you're allowed out of your house, you can go visit. And we're just going to skip all this because it's a waste of your time. Another thing that happens after World War II, the country of Israel is created after everything that happens during the Holocaust. The world decides that the Jewish people need a homeland of their own. They are given this land of Israel in the Middle East. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the year. So we're just going to zoom ahead from there. Here's something interesting. What did we do with Japan? Think about this. We fought a war against them in World War II. We ended that war by dropping 2 atomic bombs on them. And after the war is over, what do? We occupy, which means we take over Japan, and we help rebuild them. Think about that. Why would we drop 2 atomic bombs on a country and then help rebuild it? That's like knocking over your brother's or your sister's Lego tower and then rebuilding it for them. Why do it? Well, if you paid attention in World War I, you know the answer. Remember how harshly Germany was punished after World War I? They were treated horribly. They were blamed for everything. And because of that, they wanted to fight again in World War II. And so with Japan, we decide maybe it'd be better if we don't let the Japanese people get so angry. Maybe it'd be better if we help them rebuild and then they can become friends with us. This was the strategy, and in case you don't know, it worked perfectly. Japan's one of our best allies today. So that's U.S. planes flying over Japan, U.S. soldiers occupying Japan. Also, at the end of World War II, all those countries we talked about being colonized, imperialized by the Europeans, they're all going to get their independence. Every single one of them. We'll talk more about that again as the year goes on. But today we're going to concentrate on the actual Cold War and what the Cold War was. So, the Cold War, let's give you a definition. The United States and the Soviet Union do not trust each other at the end of World War II, and it becomes a struggle for global influence. Basically, think of the Cold War, as I've already said, it's like a gang war. The United States has its side, the capitalism side. The Soviet Union has its communism side, and each side wants to spread its way of life to the other side. So the communists want communism to spread. The United States wants capitalism and democracy to spread. But here's a problem. Those two things are complete opposites. They cannot exist together. So in order for one side to win, the other side has to lose. And that's going to be the problem here. So let's see. I just want to get you to your next question here. Question 4. What was the ideology? What was the biggest idea for the United States in the Cold War? Well, it's pretty simple. We've talked about it pretty much all year. Wow, that sounded good, didn't it? The United States was all about democracy and capitalism. So it says it right here. The USA promoted democracy and capitalism. And so, question number 5, what was the ideology of the Soviet Union? They were trying to spread communism. Political cartoons tell you everything. Here you have the Soviet bear facing off with the American eagle, and they're facing off over a cliff. And this is the Cold War. This is what the Cold War is going to be. These two superpowers are going to stare each other down for over 50 years. And there's going to be major issues during the Cold War. In fact, there it is. This is going to become the closest that humans have ever come to destroying the actual planet. We've looked at the nuclear weapons. We looked at the videos of all the different nuclear weapons and the testings and the bombs that have gone off. And so you've seen how destructive these things are. Now imagine each side, the United States and the Soviet Union, each side with over 20,000 of those bombs. And they're all pointed at each other. And each side is actually daring the other side to fire them. Now think about how stupid human beings are and realize just how close we came to actually shooting the missiles at each other. To give you an idea of what that would have done to the Earth. If all those nukes had gone off, there would not be a living thing on this Earth except for microscopic organisms. It would have killed every last human on Earth. It would have created a nuclear winter. In other words, it would have started another ice age. There were so many nuclear bombs that if they all went off, they theoretically could have knocked the Earth out of its orbit. Think about that. So yeah, the Cold War is going to be basically a 45, 50-year standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. But understand, it's a Cold War. It's not a hot war. A hot war is when you shoot at each other. A Cold War is when you do every other thing that you can possibly do to each other without actually going to war. And so we'll stop there for today, and then we'll pick this up again tomorrow. Peace out, people.